Positive for the HIV virus has left people in Los Angeles stunned and saddened. NBC's George Lewis gauged the hometown fan reaction.
The HIV virus that I have.
The basketball team at Burroughs High in Burbank cut short their practice to watch Johnson on TV. Some of these kids had met him, had been to his all-star camps. At the Forum where the Lakers play, many fans gathered in a show of sympathy and support.
It was like if someone, Jim, would call you and say your sister, or your brother, or your wife had it.
We're not going to get to see him play basketball anymore.
At first, I couldn't believe what happened, and I just have to, come here and support him.
Other fans at sports bars watched in silence.
It's absolutely astonishing. Sad, shocking. Don't really know what to say.
At the other end of the country, Johnson's former coach, Pat Riley, now with the New York Knicks, asked the crowd at Madison Square Garden to pray with him.
For Irvin, for his family, and for the 1 million people who are afflicted with an insidious disease that needs our understanding.
Back in California, high school player Marcel White summed up Magic Johnson this way.
He's basketball. He's basketball.
His fans say the Lakers and the game itself won't be the same without him. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And Bob Costas has more on the reaction from the sports world. Bob?
Katie, thank you. Peter Vescey of USA Today has covered pro basketball for a long time. He knows the game and the players, including Magic Johnson. Peter, good morning. How would you gauge the reaction within the world you've covered for years and years, the NBA?
Well, like everybody else, shocked. Everybody feels the same way. But at the same time, it struck a chord the other day when Magic said that he wasn't feeling himself, and the word at the time was that he had the flu. And that struck a chord in my family. We talked about it at home. It just wasn't right what he said. You don't talk about having the flu and not feeling right. So we were worried a week ago, Bob. We were talking about it in my house.
Do you think athletes in general are aware of AIDS, aware of social issues in general?
They're aware of it, Bob, but they've got that macho mentality. I wrote about it in USA Today. I remember several years ago traveling with the Hawks and being with Dominique Wilkins and talking to him about, aren't you afraid of this virus? Aren't you afraid when you go out with women after games and they're so available and they're getting passed around the NBA and the players are getting passed around the NBA? Doesn't that worry you at all? And he just kind of shrugged it off. And I told him then, I said, Dominique wanted, and Dominique's a bachelor, and it still is a bachelor, as Magic was up until recently. And I said, one of these days it's going to hit the sports world, the NBA, and there is going to be an epidemic, and you guys are going to have to face it like everyone else.
Do you think the athlete's behavior is likely to change?
I think it'll only change, Bob, if they believe that he got it being straight. If they think that Magic is bisexual or gay or whatever, or did drugs, which I don't believe.
You don't believe which part of it, or you don't believe any of it?
Well, Bob, we hear rumors about everybody of that stature. I don't believe he's ever done drugs, but you hear things, and you don't know if they're true. I only know that he has it, and I don't think it's important how he got it at this point. I believe that it's important that athletes look at it and learn from it and start practicing safe sex.
In about 30 seconds here, those of us who know your work realize you can be tough at times, you can be cynical. Am I correct in saying that very, very few, if any, people felt cynically about Magic Johnson, that he was the genuine article, that he was a person of character and perceived that way by almost everybody?
He's top shelf, no dust. That's the way I feel about him. I was stunned, even though I kind of thought something was coming, but I sat in my office yesterday and cried about it because I feel an awful lot for Magic. We've traveled an awful lot together. Very recently, we've spent a lot of time together. He's done me a lot of favors, and I think everyone in my business feels the same way about him. He touched everybody. He made the effort to know you, to know your name, and he touched the common people. He didn't back off, so we're all very upset about it.
We use the past tense when we talk about him in athletic terms, so we can say he is a person of character still after seeing the way he was able to comport himself yesterday at the press conference. Thank you, Peter Vescey. Let's go back to Katie Couric.
Thanks, Bob. The progression of the AIDS virus remains a mystery to most of us, but it is something Dr. Anthony Fauci studies every day. He's director of the National Institutes of Health and one of the nation's leading authorities on AIDS. This morning, he's in our Washington newsroom. Dr. Fauci, good morning.
Good morning.
Right now, Magic has the virus that causes AIDS. Does that mean he'll definitely get AIDS, the disease?
Well, in 1991, we really can't say that. If this were a situation in which there were no therapy and a person would go untreated, from what we know about this virus, virtually invariably, everyone will have a deterioration of their body's protective mechanisms, which we call the immune system, to the point that they'll be prey to the infections and other opportunistic diseases that are so common in HIV-infected individuals, which defines the disease AIDS. Right now, we're in a dynamic state of the development of drugs. There are no drugs that are perfect, and there are no cures, but they're getting better, and we're now able to extend the disease-free state in individuals for a considerable period of time. Not long enough as we would want, but certainly longer than if these people were not treated. So we don't know what's going to happen a few years from now, because if, in fact, he's very early in the course of his infection, which he may be, I don't know, I'm not his physician, so I can't say exactly where he is in the course of infection, but he apparently looks and feels relatively well. So we're talking in terms of years, if you look at the natural course of HIV infection before someone gets sick. If within that time we can get him to be on therapy if he needs it, he may not need it right now. In fact, he could have prolongation of his life to the point where there will be a drug a few years from now that could extend that even further. So to say that he's doomed is not appropriate and not correct right now.
Let's talk about some of the therapies you mentioned. You say there's no cure, but there are some drugs that are giving a lot of people hope, aren't there?
Yes. Well, right now, the standard therapy up to just a little while ago was AZT, or zidovudine, which has been shown to prolong the life of individuals with AIDS, as well as to delay the onset of disease in individuals who are infected but who don't have disease. Most recently, the drug DDI was approved by the FDA for individuals who either cannot tolerate AZT because it's too toxic or who have failed it. Now, again, we're in a situation where you're talking about a drug that might prolong things or might delay the onset for a finite period of time. We're looking for that drug that'll do that essentially indefinitely, but we're not there yet.
Dr. Fauci, we only have a few seconds left. How do you think this will affect people's attitudes towards AIDS in this country?
Well, I think when you have someone of the, as beloved and well-known as Mr. Johnson who gets infected, I think that will jolt into the consciousness of individuals, as he said so eloquently last night, that we think that we're invulnerable, it's not going to happen to me, and yet you see someone like that have this tragic event come into his life. I think if the American people perceive this correctly, they'll say, now, wait a minute, if this can happen to Magic Johnson, it can happen really to anybody.
But we should point out it's not necessarily a death sentence for Magic Johnson.
No, at this point, not so.
All right. Dr. Fauci, thank you so much.
Thank you.
With more on today's news, we turn to the news desk and Faith Daniels. Faith.
Thanks, Katie. Good morning, everyone. The leaders of the NATO nations are winding up a two-day session in Rome. They're changing the face of the alliance to handle new challenges in Europe. Jim Miklaszewski is with us this morning again from Rome. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Faith. The object of this gathering was to chart a new course for NATO to meet rapidly changing security threats in Europe. But it was the European community which moved today, not NATO, against an increasing threat from Yugoslavia.
The EC foreign ministers imposed a number of economic and trade sanctions against Yugoslavia in an attempt to bring an end to the ongoing war. The EC also asked the United Nations to impose an oil embargo against Yugoslavia. Meanwhile, President Bush met this morning with French President Mitterrand. Bush aides say he was trying to wring some kind of public concession out of the French regarding the U.S. leadership role in NATO. The French have led an effort to form an independent European military force. In a diplomatic power play, Bush told NATO leaders if they didn't want the U.S. military in Europe, he'd take them home. There were no takers. In today's final declaration, NATO sets out to meet changing security demands, revamp its military strategy with a leaner, meaner fighting force. And for the first time, NATO is inviting its former enemies of the Warsaw Pact to sit down at the same table for security consultations.
Back home, the president has been criticized for spending too much time on foreign matters. But Bush's aides say that today, in preparation for a meeting later with reporters, the president's been gearing up for more questions on new tax plans, health care, and even AIDS, not NATO. Faith?
All right, thank you, Jim Miklaszewski. In Lebanon's war-torn capital this morning, a massive bomb blast destroyed the main building of the American University of Beirut. 9 people were hurt. In this country, pro- and anti-abortion forces are both claiming victory. Congress has passed a bill that would lift a ban on abortion counseling at federally funded clinics. Although there are enough Senate votes to override a threatened veto, the margin wasn't that big in the House. Capitol Hill Democrats are trying once again to extend benefits for the long-term unemployed. President Bush has blocked 2 previous bills, claiming they're too expensive. But Congress is trying again to nearly double the length of eligibility for jobless benefits.
The benefit level under this bill is the same level as in the bill the President vetoed. We will not agree to any benefit level less than that amount. Not 1 week less, not 1 day less.
And I say to the President, I say to Director Darman, I say to Chairman Boskin, I say to Secretary Brady, it's time for you to care.
The new bill offers 3 separate ways to pay the cost of extending benefits, allowing the deficit to increase, partially freezing foreign aid, or imposing a new business tax. On the foreign financial markets today, stock prices were higher at the close of trading in Tokyo, while the London exchange opened on the downside. And a new civil rights bill is on its way to President Bush. On Thursday, the House passed the measure that expands the rights of job discrimination victims and reverses a series of recent Supreme Court rulings. 7:13 now. That's the latest from here.
Thanks a lot, Faith. And in a moment, of course, we'll have a conversation with Magic's former coach, Pat Riley. But first, we're going to head down to Washington and get a look at the weather from Willard. Hey, Willard.
Hey, good morning. A touch of wintertime in the air, but everything is lovely out in Stockton, California. The Stockton Elks Club is celebrating its 100th anniversary today. We wish them a very happy anniversary. So many good things they do. The Stockton Elks Club, Central California. A birthday wish this morning. How sweet it is. Take a look at a pretty lady, Hulda Stuckaloff, Hayward, California. This is another California golden girl. Lives on her own. Recently canned 40 pints of peaches from her own backyard. That's the kind of woman we like. She enjoys life and enjoys her food, just like Uncle Willard. Big story today, storm system off the East Coast. More beach erosion this weekend from the Carolinas up through New England. That's not good. Some snow expected in the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia later on tonight and tomorrow, and very windy conditions, and it stays warm on the West Coast. Here's what's happening in your world, even as we speak.
Well, a little warmer today, if we can call 30 degrees a little warmer. I guess it's all relative, isn't it? Mostly sunny today, a high of 30. Not bad considering we're starting out below 0 again today. 4 straight days of record low temperatures. 30, though, for the high today.
A lot, Willard. We're coming up on 1:15, and Bob's back in a moment with Pat Riley. But first, this is Today on NBC.
Shop K's merchandise for the guaranteed lowest price during the spectacular fall sale.
Get it.
The Pick Up and Go vacuum from Fisher-Price helps steady your toddler's first steps. Just $21.97. Get the largest selection of hot name brands at the guaranteed lowest price.
Get it.
The Fisher-Price nursery monitor keeps you in touch by transmitting even the smallest sound. Just $43.45. Shop K's today during the spectacular fall sale. Experience K's merchandise. A little different, a lot better.
Make a healthy change. Choose Medicap Pharmacy. We take care of your health the only way we know how. Face-to-face, person-to-person, one-to-one. Even better, your Medicap pharmacist is probably the store owner. So while some places may take personal service lightly, we're dedicated to perfecting ours. Medicap Pharmacy. Our care comes through in everything we do.
People are pouring into Pizza Hut for a great new lunch deal. Because right now, you can sit down and enjoy a pepperoni personal pan pizza for just $1.29 and a supreme personal pan pizza for just $1.79. Or carry them out for the same great low price. Either way, you get the Pizza Hut pizza you love. Plus, you'll get them in 5 minutes or your next one's free. Now, you could go somewhere else, but with a deal like this at Pizza Hut, why would you? Pizza Hut, making it great!
Spending hours of time shopping may work for some women.
But at Mr. B, we understand that your time is too valuable to spend searching for just the right suit or blouse to add to your corporate wardrobe. At Mr. B, we have hundreds of classically styled women's suits with just the right accessories to complete that tailored look you want most. We offer casual sportswear for after hours and a professional staff to assist with your wardrobe planning.
Remember, taking the time to look good takes only one time at Mr. B.
We're joined now by the longtime Laker coach, now the new head coach of the Knicks, Pat Riley. Pat, I know last night was emotional for you, and you showed it in a brief moment out on the floor at Madison Square Garden before the Knicks game with Orlando.
It was for everybody, Bob. I mean, the announcement in the afternoon, I found out, early, and actually had a conversation with Irvin, and, when it finally came across at 6 o'clock, you cannot believe the reaction of players in the locker room, both teams. Just total devastation, I think, on the part of a lot of people who are so close to Irvin and respected him that it can happen, but it has, and I think the strength showed through the press conference and all those people who want to sort of wallow in self-pity and misery. He's letting them know that this isn't what this is about. This is his greatest challenge in his life, and he showed a tremendous spirit.
Even for him, his demeanor was almost unbelievable at the press conference. So much grace, so as bizarre as it seems to say, almost upbeat. Did he surprise even you, a guy who knows him so well?
When I talked to him on the phone, he had the same reflection in his voice. He understands totally what's going on and what he faces, and that's who he is. That's what he always was. He always brought that attitude with him. It's an attitude that comes from inside. I'm sure that probably in his private moments, there might be some deeper feelings there, but right now he's going to present that whole package to everybody out there in America and everybody that has been a fan of Irvin, anybody that's been around him. He's going to show that strength because I think that's who he is.
It's obvious that he's one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. He won an NCAA championship at Michigan State. He's involved in 5 NBA championships with the Lakers, 3 MVP awards. Those things speak for themselves. But there is some quality, perhaps indefinable, about him that makes him unique. Can you take a crack at defining it?
Oh, man, he's, there's some people in this world who are given special gifts. He was given a special gift as a basketball player. I mean, he had the 6'9" package of skills. He was an orthodox, as some people say, he was an oxymoron, right, when it comes down to his position. But he was really born of special stuff. I mean, when it comes to caring about people and being a great leader, taking the blame, putting it on his shoulders. He simply hated to lose. He was nothing but a winner. I think he projected that in all aspects of his life. And he will continue to project that in this fight. As you said last night, we are not here to eulogize him. He is moving on to another part of his life that's a great challenge. It's sort of a sorrowful one in a way, but if there's ever been a person that can hold up and present a positive figure to a nation that needs it right now, it's him.
None of the 4 major professional sports leagues in America has an AIDS testing program. How much AIDS awareness do you think there was around the NBA? For example, was it ever discussed in the Laker locker room?
It was never discussed in the locker room. There is an awareness, I think the awareness for people across the board, just from the overall news of it. I do think that team doctors and league trainers have discussed it thoroughly with players, either privately or as a group, but it was never an actual locker room meeting where a medical physician would come in and explain it. But I think most NBA players are aware of the ramifications and obviously the things that could come from it, and probably will raise the awareness now.
In just a few seconds, when I say Magic Johnson, is there any one incident or thought or image that immediately comes to mind for you?
Well, the last time I talked to him, really talked to him, was the day that I went over to his house and told him that I was leaving. And for whatever reasons, which are totally insignificant right now, we sat on his veranda in the back of his house and for a couple of hours and talked about the team and about our relationship and about what it meant to be part of a significant team. That image conjures up the most powerful feeling right now for me because we shared a very special relationship. We won a lot of championships. We shared that with joy and with a lot of laughter, and there were a lot of tears also. And I mean, I'm going to be right there with him, and I just hope that everybody that has watched Irvin over the years and has enjoyed him on the basketball court. His career as a basketball player is over, but his career as a person and somebody who can lead is just beginning.
Pat, thanks very much.
Welcome back.
We're back with more after this.
Reebok introduces a shoe with a technology specifically designed for fitness walkers. The pump accelerator with the dynamic cushioning system. With each step, compression of the heel chamber forces air through a transmission channel into the forefoot chamber, creating a cushioning sensation that can help any athlete maintain an optimum level of cardiovascular injury.
I'll make this real simple. These cushions can help you get rid of these cushions.